children of peace. B'nai Shalom, on Yeshua will feast. B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, through Yeshua will be. B'nai Shalom, love one another as you have seen me love you. My sister, my brother, do as I command you, and come unto me, my child, and I'll give you peace. Then you will be B'nai Shalom, B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, on Yeshua will feast. B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, through Yeshua will be. B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, children of peace.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Torah Institute. My name is Mark Davidson, and today we're doing a very special biographical show on two people who have been used remarkably over the last 30 years in bringing the truth to so many homes across the globe. They have been pioneers in the Messianic movement, and in particular the way of the Natsarim, writing books, leading seminars, and teaching from the highways and byways wherever they may find themselves. And despite great adversity and pressure, they are still pushing forward, hearing Yahusha's voice and pleading with his followers to come together and love one another. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege today to be chatting with Lou and Phyllis White. How are you guys?
We're fine.
Fine. Hello.
Good to see you.
So today I think everybody would just like to hear how you came into this, where you met each other, just a lovely story of Yahusha's love in your life. So where did you both grow up?
Well, in the same city.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky. And that's where we're at now. And, we're scattered. We're here. Anyway, the way I met Phyllis was I'd been going to high school, and I started my musical career basically at age 11. And that drew me to her because, see, we were linked through the study of music. It was, I was in 5th grade, and I saw somebody that was amazing that had played in front of the group, and my friend Bob, at my business, was a 5th grader with me, and we watched these two brothers playing guitar who were our classmates, and we were absolutely amazed. So Bob and I started to take guitar lessons at age 11. And then I was, pretty proficient with it. I was very dedicated. I practiced a lot. And Bob did as well. And by the age of 12, we were both pretty proficient. We had just a year under our belt. And we started to play in little folk bands. And we were playing for the grade school that we were in. And and then by the time we got to be, I was taking formal lessons as was Bob, and then Phyllis came in after I became a teacher, and she was 16 and I was 17. You want to tell the story from there?
Oh, I don't know. I begged my parents for guitar lessons because I thought that's what I wanted to do, and I walked into the Conservatory of Music and then was waiting for my guitar teacher to come out, and then I saw this most wonderful, beautiful, handsome boy I ever saw in my life. I mean, it was just like there was just fireworks going off, and I was so nervous. I didn't get much of a guitar lesson that day, but anyway, it was just wonderful. But then we got separated because he had to go into the service, and we sort of wrote back. I kept all his letters while he was in the Air Force, and I still get them out and read them.
Yeah, I was in for 4 years. See, we only knew each other for a year, and then or so, and I took her to a few band gigs, that we had, and we were really into each other. I was too busy to date very many girls. I had dated one other girl, and that was it. And then, but even she only went to a band gig. It wasn't a real date, But Bob and I were really dedicated musicians. And then I'd disappear into the Air Force for 4 years, going here and there. And then I got out of the Air Force, and the first day that I came home, there was a letter, and it was from Phyllis saying, "Welcome home." And then it was basically we, got together and we said, well, let's get married, and we did. And then we were starting college, and basically we both went to college after work. I got a job at a financial institution. She was working at the phone company, and in the offices as an engineer, or not at first, but she got into the engineering department, and we were both eventually working in the same building. I was working for a bank, and she was working upstairs or downstairs. I think it was upstairs.
That was after we got married.
Yeah, after we were married, long after.
Yeah.
And for some almost 10 years, we were not even thinking about children. But then the children come along when I'm 31, she's 30, the first child. And from there, we just found out what life was really about, Because we went to school for like 7 years. We both graduated from college.
When we finished our college, then we were wondering, why haven't we had any children? And we took preliminary testing to see, and we just basically gave up on children. And then suddenly I got pregnant.
Wonderful.
And then what, honey?
Okay, we were, we weren't unbelievers, but, we were just not dedicated to anything. I had never read Scripture because I'd been raised in Catholicism. And by the time I was 18, I was kind of over that. Not that I didn't believe, I was very, very programmed. I had a lot of their teaching still in my head.
And I had been raised in Baptist beliefs and had been baptized in the name of Yahusha, and I had strong beliefs, but pretty much like him, we were both just kind of living for ourselves, weren't we?
Selfish,
just
like everybody, trying to get ahead.
Just trying to make it a living.
And then the next thing that happened was we started to grow apart a bit because of the fact that I was working all the time, trying to build the business up, changing displays, just working all the time as much as I could. And then, of course, our firstborn was the only child we had at that time, was getting to be about 4 years old or so. And one night I was reading him a book or reading him a story as he went to sleep, and he looked over at the other wall, and he said, he was looking at a Christmas tree, and he said, "Dad, what is that?" It was beautiful, and I looked at the thing myself. It was the only light on in the room, and I said, I don't really know what that is, but I've seen it all my life. But I'll tell you what, I'll find out what it is, and when I do, I'll let you know. And by the way, I'm never going to lie to you. I told him, I said, I'm going to find out what things are, and and it was a couple of another year later or so. Phyllis had been going to a study, right, with Wilhelmina.
Yes, we were. Wilhelmina was a Christian friend of mine
that worked with you.
that worked at South Central Bell, but she was keeping the fact hidden that she knew his name. But she didn't share that with just everybody. And she was having Christian group studies where we studied Scripture. And one day, the study had dwindled down to just me and her and one other person. And she said, well, I'm going to share something with you that I don't tell everybody. And she told us his true name. And
What name was that?
She was saying Yeshua.
Yes.
You know, that was, my first understanding was Yeshua. And she also explained to me about how terrible Halloween was. She was crying. Everybody at work was dressed up in costume. I think I was too. I don't remember if I was or not, but she was actually crying because she said, if you only knew the nature of our Creator. And that's when she told me his name, Yahweh and Yeshua. And she said, if you only knew his nature and his commandments and what he's taught us not to do, you would know how we were hurting him. And she went through the scriptures where it talked about not to pursue him in the ways of these pagan ways. At that point, Lou wasn't even at the level of Christianity as far as reading scripture or anything. And Wilhelmina and I were praying for him day after day.
Mm-hmm.
You said at one point to Amy a few weeks ago, your relationship had pretty much, it was gone. You'd had it. You were asking for a new husband.
That was right when our relationship was not good.
It was at the bottom, yeah.
And I told Wilhelmina I hated him. I wanted another husband. And she said, wait a minute. You can't hate your husband. You have to, he's your husband. You have to love him as you would Yeshua, And she was Yahusha. And she said, you have to love him as Yahusha because he is your head. And I said, oh, but I can't love him. She says, well, if you can't love him, then you love your enemies. If he's your enemy, then you have to love him. So there wasn't any way I was going to get out of loving my husband, whether he was my enemy or whether he was my head. And she just was holding me down with that scripture. And, I know she was praying. And so one day I asked Yahusha, I said, Father, I need a new husband. I need a new husband for me and someone that'll be a father to my son. And he told me that if I would humble myself and be submissive to my husband, the one that he gave me to be my husband, that he would give me a new husband. It didn't make any sense to me, but I did it. I just stepped out in faith, and I started to be. And how did that affect you when you saw me being submissive to you?
I was
and
amazed.
Obedient?
It was the very thing that men need is the support and encouragement and somebody to stand behind them instead of resisting them. And when I saw that happening, then I started to change. And, and of course she was praying for me too, but Yahusha was softening my heart and I was opening up to her because of this. And it's reflective, because when one person is kind, the other person eventually has to be kind as well. I didn't know that I was being unkind, but it was more or less more of an ignoring kind of relationship. I was just so busy and preoccupied that she was perceiving it a different way. And women think differently than men and feel differently. And they need things that men don't need, but men are very insecure creatures, We don't like to show that, but we really are. And when we get the support and encouragement and love and dedication from our wives, then it just opens up a whole new world for our, perceptions. So that was happening. So all these scriptures that I had never read, or I found later, were what she was doing.
What did you find to read?
Oh, she put something in my path that was a copy of the scriptures that I had never read any of. I was about 35 years old, and I opened up this big book into the middle, and I saw this writing, and I remember it was on the right-hand side of the page. It was Isaiah. We know his name is Yeshayahu, but chapter 53. And this really split the universe wide open for me. I thought the book was talking to me. Because, see, I'd been studying science. And I had just given up on it because I was just so frustrated with it. And then I closed the book up and I said, I've got to read every word of this. Now, it was the NIV, and I was, unaware of the translations. But I opened it up to the preface, read the preface, and some paragraphs down I saw that they had removed the name.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
I'm ahead of myself because when I first saw the copy of the book, there was something laying on top of it. And I thought, wait a minute, this is important. We can't have things sitting on top of this. So I ripped it off, and I felt this rage burning in me. And I was going, what's that? Because of this thing that was sitting on top of his word. And then he had me open it up to the preface, and I read the preface.
No, you're getting ahead of yourself.
I am? What did I do?
You found in Isaiah that says, I hate divorce.
Oh, I saw that too. That was in another place.
That was because he's asking about a relationship.
Yeah, that was in another place though.
You found out that he hates divorce.
Yes, that was after I started reading more scripture. Okay. I found out that I was asking everybody whether, because we were talking about getting divorced. And the word, divorce shouldn't have even been in our vocabulary. But it was, and I was asking people, and everybody said, yes, you should just get divorced. And I said, well, there's one person I haven't asked. And I asked Yahuah. So I searched in his word, and I found out that he hates divorce. And I had already received a partial filling, even before I was,
Okay, so was that before you found that in the preface first? See,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
See, the first thing that happened to me...
I'm learning this for the first time.
The first thing that happened to me in the same scene when I was first reading Yeshayahu 53, I saw that and I said, I know him. I have always known him. And I went to the preface, and then he introduced himself to me because he showed me his name had been removed by these translators, and then my bones started to feel heat in them. And a rage started to burn in me over that. I was going, who do they think they are? And then that was the beginning. So everything I read from that point on, I had the key, and I put the key in, and it was all open to me. And then I saw the footnotes, and I was seeing how the footnotes were fighting against what was above them in the text. And I was going, wow, what in the world has happened? But it was what I found out later was it was the replacement theology and all of the things that the Circus Fathers had changed people's minds and thinking on. I didn't know all that. All I knew was there was this war going on between the footnotes and the text. And that was the beginning. But I knew the truth, and I was going to trust what the text said rather than what these men had written. Because they were looking like fools down there. The stuff that they were saying. I was going, that can't be. You can't say this. And the Creator says one thing, and then they say something else. And it was just, and I was led to all these scriptures where he said, I am Yahuah and I do not change. And I'm going, well, I'm glad of that, and all these texts, and like I have, like Acts 4:12 just jumped out at me, blazed in my mind because I had the key. Because, see, the word name meant something to me, and she's responsible for praying for me,
Well,
and that was
Yahuah put Will and Mina in our path.
That's true.
And I'm forever thankful to him for doing that. She's probably passed away by now. We lost touch with each other. Yeah,
we were very young. We were in our 20s.
No,
30s.
30s.
Yeah, maybe early 30s. Yeah, about that time.
Yeah, because Michael was already... Mm-hmm. In fact, Adam was about to be born.
Okay, yes.
Well,
actually, Adam was the result of a reconciliation.
Yeah. Yeah, we that New Year's, even though I was still trying to be submissive, things still were kind of rocky, and he went to watch a movie with his brothers. It was New Year's Eve. We were still celebrating the pagan things then, And he came home New Year's Eve that night, and Michael and I were still up, and he said, we've got to watch this movie. And we've, you know, what the movie was just about families staying together. And he took me in his arms and said, we need to make it work. And then from that day on, everything, you know, and then he blessed us with another child after waiting 6.5 years. And then when did we get immersed in the true name? How did you learn? Tell them how you learned the real name.
Well, first of all, I want to bring up one other little detail, though. When you were talking about the fact that we were getting back together, the real thing that happened to me was it dawned on me that there was a real spiritual enemy that was trying to divide up the marriages, not just ours, but all marriages, and that he hated marriage, and that this thing that was, we call him, well, it was some demonic spirit that was causing us to be divided. I said, we've got to stand back to back and be opposed to that force.
That's what you said.
And that was it. I knew that we were under attack, and it wasn't something we could see. It wasn't even us. It was something outside of us. And I said, that's what we have to be united on, is this force, this like the Star Wars thing. It's this evil force, and it's forces, really, the principalities and powers. But back to that other part, how did I get immersed? How did
you learn the name? I you know, it's been a while.
Well, I was very interested in the name from the very beginning, the very first day I opened the Scriptures. So I went to the University of Louisville, where I'd gone to college for 7.5 years, and I went and photographed every alphabet that was related to Hebrew, and of course it involved alphabets.
He means in his head. He's got a photographic memory.
Yeah.
He doesn't mean with a camera. He means.
Oh, I was photocopying it.
Were
too.
you? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I was studying it intensely, and I saw all this ancient script and all this modern Hebrew, and then I started looking at the Greek, and I started seeing problems, and I'm still learning things. There's new things to discover in the transitions, but the name and its correct transliteration was important to me. I didn't even know the difference between a translation and a transliteration until I started doing the deeper research. But then it dawned on me that I need to get immersed because of the text that I was reading and studying. And the more scripture I saw about his name, which involved immersion and so forth, then I went and got immersed, and I was bringing Phyllis along with my new understandings, and she was pretty well, everything I said that Scripture said, she went along with. So Yahusha was in her heart, and it was resistance at first, but saying, well, if it says it, we've got to do that, and that's what we did, both of us.
But because Yahuah had prepared my heart to be submissive to my husband, prepared me to accept this new trend, this new learning. Because I was being submissive, I was able to receive the blessing also, and that's when I got my new husband.
Yeah. When I was immersed, though, the old husband died. Yeah.
What was the reaction to the assembly that you were currently in?
We continued to go there for a while.
Oh yeah, that's a story too.
Yes,
we kept going back, knowing the truth, and then what? And we weren't able to have much effect on them at that time. And then you went and had a talk with our pastor.
Yeah, we were seeing people and talking to people and saying, "It's this, it's this, it's this. This is what it really says." And that they've changed the words and so forth, just like Scripture says they would do. And, so I had to go to my pastor, and I made an appointment to see him. And this was one of those huge assemblies. There were 6,000 people there now, and I think there's closer to 30 there
30,000, yeah.
But they're right down the street from Torah Institute. It's like Goliath and Daoud. I mean, you got this huge place and this itsy-bitsy little place. And we've got the name. And like Daoud came to Goliath, I come to you in the name of Yahuah, of armies, in love, of course. And anyway, we'd tell people the things, and they would just, they'd get this stone face, and then this resistance, and, they'd freeze, and they just resisted. It was amazing. Well, when I went to talk to the pastor at this assembly, I talked to him, and at the end, after an hour of me back and forth with him, and I'm trying to persuade him of why we're not doing the things that it says that we're supposed to do. And he says, well, and I called the whole building a synagogue, and that really upset him. He got enraged over that. And I said, well, this is a beautiful synagogue. Of course, I thought at that time synagogues were buildings. The congregation is the synagogue, But I didn't know that. But neither did he, and he may still not know that. But he was a good intended man. He had good intentions, but he didn't sit very well with it. But at the end of the discussion, he said, then can we at least say that we're brothers? And I said, well, I'm going to have to study on that, because I'm not really quite sure we are brothers. Because I'm thinking one thing and doing something that you don't do, when I love the commandments and you don't apparently want to keep all of the commandments. You want to pick and choose which ones you like because of the way you're taught. And I like them the way they're written. But they're not hard. All you have to do is just, acknowledge them and say, well, I'm not doing that. Let me just do that. So anyway, the next week, he started a men's study group on Sabbath morning. And I didn't have a problem with that. I was going,
just
maybe I had an effect on him. It was immediate. It was like maybe he saw some slippage there possible, and so he wants to cover both. But he was there, and he was directing it too. And I was in the audience there.
Yeah, you went to a couple of those
I went to a
meetings.
couple of them until I got to the studying, and I just couldn't see any reason why I had to even be there.
And I was going to a little splinter group. We had quit attending services there because one day Lou asked me, he says, what do you think? Can we have our feet on both sides of the fence? We've got to make a decision. You want to keep going back here where they're, profaning the name. They were singing praise to his name, but they would never say what his name was. And so we both decided to quit going, but I was still involved in the splinter group, and I was witnessing to this lady in this group, and I was giving her a copy of Fossilized Customs. That was the first edition. And she took it back to that same pastor and asked him about it, and he says, oh, you can't have anything to do with Lou White. I don't want any of my people or anybody that come here to have anything or talk to Lou White. She came back and told me at the next time we had a meeting, she says, I can't talk to you or your husband or have anything to do with anything he's written.
And how could that possibly be? Anyway, it is dangerous for pastors, because the fact that the flock will have their strongholds released as they learn the truth. Because when you learn truth, the strongholds are just dissolved away because they're overcome. Not that I'm doing it, it's just the truth. It's Scripture that does it.
Do you still have the same belief in you about what you would call a brother? When your pastor asked you, are we still brothers?
Not that he's an enemy at all, or anyone like him is an enemy, but they're outside the covenant, and therefore they're not really engrafted. That's the only distinction. They can be potential brothers, but they maybe at the point that they're making the decision to obey or not, that's the point where we can help them over and say, well, let's love the commandments. Let's receive a love for the commandments, which is only possible by the Spirit of Messiah. Yahusha will come into a person and enable them to accept the truth, and then teach them more truth, and fill them more with His Spirit all the time. But, when they're resisting, they're not technically brothers, but we're to treat them as if they are, draw them with love, not contempt and judgment and all the things that we see happening between the Natsarim even. You know, you're not keeping this letter has to be there, or you're a liar, or whatever, all that. That's wrong, you know. Those are all people at different stages of understanding and development. That's what that is. But if they're Sabbath keeping and they want to keep the commandments and they have an understanding of the name and they love the name and so forth, even if it's not exactly like another, then they're still brothers and sisters. But this backbiting is not right, you know. They're just in the race, you know.
Yeah. So explain where the seed thought for searching for the truth as far as fossilized customs came from. You mentioned your younger son, Michael. Well, most parents would have looked over at the tree and said, that's a Christmas tree. It's Christmas time, that's a Christmas tree. But you said, I don't know, son. Go there. Where did that seed thought come from to, I have to find this?
Oh boy. Well,
because there's a lot of questions about whether you actually wrote this book, so tell us how you came to you.
Yes. Well, before I was immersed in Scripture, I was in science. And I started to do fringe science. And I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. And that involved mental processes of what we call flying. And that flying is where you're usually in a trance or you're going to sleep. And I had no training in this. I was just being drawn into it probably by demonic powers. And I went to places I was on my bed, and I would pretend to be taking off in an airplane in my mind. And then the airplane would go away. And then I would project myself out into the deepest regions of space. And when I got there, I saw no stars, but I saw infinity. The outer darkness is what it is, I know now. And that was a pretty miserable feeling. I didn't see my body. All I was basically a blob of energy, a little jelly bean or something. And all I saw was nothing in all directions. And all I could do was will myself to turn, but there was nothing to turn to. There was no orientation. This was outer darkness. And I was out of body, okay? And Yahusha came to me at that point, and all I saw was a pillar of light. I'd never read about this, but I saw the Shekinah, and it was a beautiful thing. It had no top. It had a termination point that was just glowing, and inside of it, there were translucent colors like a rainbow. There was one color, and then inside of that I could see another color, and inside of that another color. And there was a presence there. And it was speaking to me, but not with words. And at that point, I was so excited that I was drawing myself closer and closer to it. Like, go to the light. And I was just so in love with this. And I knew that it was an entity. It was a powerful thing. And I knew that it was the Creator, too. But I did not know his name because I had not yet opened the book that Phyllis had put in my path. So, at that point, I willed myself closer and closer, and I could not get any closer than so far. And then I woke up, and I was so excited that I was sweating and breathing hard, and I said, I was filled with joy. You know, all I knew was that everything was going to be all right. But I had not really, I had apparently taken in a lot of information, but it was not, you know, the kind of communication that we have. It was another kind. It was actually it was an infilling. It was an enabling. Something that was enabling me to go to the next level. And I knew that there was something important that happened there. And I don't want to say this was a Joseph Smith experience, you know, but there weren't any funny little plates or anything like that. Nothing like that. This was reality, but it was spiritual. And then after that came the next levels and the next steps. Phyllis was praying for me. Probably that's why this happened, because she sent him to me. And I pray for him to go to others too, in their dreams, you know.
How did that lead to fossilized customs?
Well, it led to fossilized customs by means of me studying and taking notes, and I had assembled pictures that I had drawn to illustrate the texts and the scriptures, and I was using scripture as the basis, and I always quote scripture, and then I used more scripture than my own words, and I came out with a little pamphlet called Bold Mud. Well, Bold Mud was me thinking of myself as just being dust, and we're all that way, and we're bold because we have something in us that's valuable. We're vessels, so we can be bold as lions, even though we're just dust. So this little thing developed into fascicle 1 of Fossilized Customs, because I had to keep getting more information and more information. So I came out with various editions of Bold Mud, and then I came out with the first fascicle of Fossilized Customs, and that led to 4 fascicles total, and then I put the 4 fascicles together, and it became the first edition of Fossilized Customs. And I did write Fossilized Customs. I didn't get it from the internet. The internet didn't really exist.
What year was that, honey?
Well, it must have been something like 1986 that I started the research, or 87.
You spent years in
It was
the library.
years. I had, between 1986 and 1997, I had done all these things I was talking about. And then there was over a decade of research there. Just going to I was buying encyclopedias, sets of encyclopedias to get knowledge, to get to track this stuff, and and scriptures, different translations. I bought my first concordance. It was it had the Strong's numbers, but it wasn't Strong's. It was the NASB, which some people say is evil. There are a couple of sentences in there that have bad translations, but anyway, it had the name Yahuah in it, and I was thinking, that's great, and at that time I thought that there was a W in the Hebrew. Well, I've learned that that's actually a 13th century appearance. It's a double U, but it's really a one U, really. So anyway, that's the way the Fossilized Customs developed. And then as I'd acquire more, the Fossilized Customs kept getting a little bigger and a little bigger. And I think it's going to have 244 pages in the 10th edition. I'm not sure about that, but,
Yeah, he's working on that right now.
I'm working on it.
But not only did he buy encyclopedias, but he spent hours in the library researching the oldest encyclopedias and dictionaries that they had. He would actually go to the archives, and they would pull out these volumes for him to study from, and you can't even find those anymore, because this research that he did is just it's unreproducible right now. Is that the right word?
Wow.
You cannot reproduce it. The study that he did.
Well, there was a lot of research in there, and I was basically, though, everything was being brought to me. I was seeing things pop up. I look for things sometimes where I'm trying to study something, and Yahusha actually brings it to me by whatever means. It doesn't float through the air, but it may as well be doing that, because the information just finds its way there and it plugs in.
Like Danny McCombs?
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
Well, Danny McCombs, yeah.
Yes.
So just so there's not a massive influx of emails, you're not stating that you had a Joseph Smith experience. You're stating that Yahusha can come to you in whatever state you might have been in.
Oh, yeah.
And reach you.
Yeah. He can speak through a donkey if he needs to, even to an unbeliever. And through an unbeliever. I mean, even Pharaoh was used, But the thing of it is, though, the simplicity of the truth is what people don't really realize, but they're so caught up in so many strongholds that they are incapable of comprehending the simplicity,
Sister, how did you feel as a Christian woman that your husband's on the bed having trances?
Oh, well, you know what? He didn't tell me about it right away, but later he told me after wasn't it after you'd been immersed that you told me about?
Yeah.
He told me about that later, but you know what? At that time, I was having visions from Yahuah. Because you have to remember, at that, as far as I know, he was still a science person, not Christian, not reading the scriptures, and I had a vision given to me of us walking hand in hand in ministry. I just remembered so distinctly that we were just leading thousands of people, and we were working on it together. Of course, my only concept at that time was from a Christian mindset. I didn't know that we were going to learn new truths, but I woke up and it was almost like Sarah laughing about getting pregnant in her old age. I woke up and I laughed and I said, yeah, like that's going to happen, because Liz was as far away from being a Christian minister as you could get, and he still is, but it was so funny because that was a vision. Yahuah told me that we were going to be walking hand in hand in a ministry, and I just buried it into my heart and never thought about it again until things started, coming together like they have been.
Well, now, we aren't the type of people, though, that feel like we're in charge of anything.
Oh,
Don't misunderstand.
No, I didn't mean that.
We're just as, we put ourselves on the lower level as we can, because the people need to know that this truth is so simple that you don't have to have some high education.
Well, when I use the word ministry, I use it in its true word. Tell them what ministry means.
Well, ministry means a work. Like
yes.
in Great Britain, they call things the ministry of this and the ministry of that. It's a department. It's
right.
It's like the levels of government that do service. They're service. So we're servants. That's what we really are. Slaves.
Right.
Yeah, we feel it too.
Yeah, we really are.
We love it though, because we know, Yahusha is. We're not doing it to earn anything. It's just that as long as we have breath in us, this is a temporary life. It's just a fleeting thing, and it goes by like that. I mean, it's over. But as long as we have breath in us, we're going to try to help as many people as we can to learn how to love one another, because it's love is the destination, and Yahusha is the way that we walk there. With his Spirit, we can arrive there. It's simple, but we make it complicated. The redemption of Israel is his mission. That's what, and he does it through his body. And we're just two people, in his body. And you're another one, and you and Amy, and many others around the world, that we need to get more unity and love among those various fragmented groups.
How did the islands come about? Was that when you were still kind of coming out of Christianity and you thought you wanted to build an assembly, like a building of some sort? Or
no, it had nothing to do with that.
It was me mainly trying to get away from that store. When I woke up to the truth in around 1985, I was just traumatized by the work, the job that I had, and I was thinking, I've got to get away from that. And very quickly, from studying Scripture, I found out that I was unequally yoked with an unbeliever. And of course, Bob was my lifelong friend. He was my childhood friend. And I wasn't feeling like, I love Bob, and Bob loves me. But the thing of it is, Bob, at that point, and as far as this point, he's still, outside the faith, as far as I know. But here's the thing. I wanted to get away, but at the same time, I was tied financially to him, but also because I loved him. And we're here to bring the lost. So I'm thinking, I've got to stay there, and that's what you do with a marriage. If you find one person that comes into the truth, they're to remain with their spouse. And in a contract, that's what we have to do. So I hung around there, and I said, well, wait a minute. This is exactly what Yahusha would be doing. He wouldn't run away from the people who needed him the most. And I saw the customers, and I said, wow, I've got a huge field where I can plant. It's perfect. So I continued to remain there, but even so, I was looking for an exit door. Mm-hmm. So around 2000, year 2000, mm-hmm. I had decided that I'd try to build another business so that I could get my hand on another branch so that I could eventually get out of that. And we bought a little piece of property where we have the building now, and we began to make plans on how to build a facility there. And slowly, over about 2 years, I guess it was, the building finally got up. And the guy said it was going to take 4 months to build it, but it took about 2 years. And anyway, we eventually moved in there on the upper level, but we had the lower level to operate as a restaurant, and the basement was kind of unoccupied at that time. And then over the years, we found out that the restaurant wasn't working. Even with just 1 or 2 employees, it was just impossible to get enough business. So what we did was we leased it out. And we continued to live upstairs. I guess this was in the 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And then we stayed up there for a while, and then we rented out the bottom, and then along comes someone else that says we'd like to rent the basement. So we rented out the basement too. And we didn't want them to open on the Sabbath, but we had leased the space to them, and then we found out that they were operating on the Sabbath, and that was breaking our hearts because we were upstairs on the Sabbath every week and going, man. Eventually we there was conflict between the two operators, the first floor renter and the basement renter. The Louisville School of Music, was it?
Yeah.
Had a little School of Rock.
Yeah, the School of Rock.
They were making a lot of noise.
They were a Christian. They're a kind of a Christian organization, but they metamorphed too.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the way the building was built, and then we took over the building completely not the basement, because the Louisville School of Rock is still there, but we've got the rest of the building for our Torah Institute now, the whole building.
Well, the renters on the first floor started doing things that we really didn't approve of, and we asked them to leave.
Well, they started
just didn't
serving alcohol, and not that alcohol is evil, but it's just that we didn't want a bar there.
No, and we told them.
We told them we don't want a bar on our property, and then it was morphing into a bar, and it was more of a bar after a couple of years than it was anything else. It was supposed to be a computer game place, at that time, an internet cafe kind of computer thing, and it was changing. So
that's the story of the islands.
Yeah.
What did you know about running a restaurant? Did you have interest in food back then, or running a restaurant? Or?
Yes, when I was in the Air Force, I was taking courses in restaurant management, and I graduated from a correspondence course. It was based in Chicago, Illinois. And while I was in Okinawa, I was studying restaurant management, even while I was working on airplanes, fighting a war in Vietnam. Anyway, because my mind was not on war, my mind was on, what am I going to be doing, I was 21, 22 years old. And, I got out of the Air Force when I was 22, and that's when I hooked up with Phyllis, and we got married. But, we're going back and forth now.
Yeah.
But, the islands, the Strawberry Islands was a restaurant,
We wanted it to be a vegetarian restaurant because at that point we were thinking that you had, if you ate meat at all, it had to be kosher. That's where we were at, and of course we knew you couldn't. It had to be kosher meat, and so we wanted to have a vegetarian restaurant because kosher to have that kosher label on it was too expensive. And we thought, well, what if we had a vegetarian restaurant and people could just anybody could walk in and not worry about eating anything unclean, or, but it was the wrong place and the wrong time.
Yeah,
It
if we
just-
were in some other
it just didn't
places, that
work.
might work, but not where we were. Those people are thinking about where's the meat, where's the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted their meat.
Yeah.
This was pre 9/11, wasn't it?
Well, it really was.
Actually, no.
No, it wasn't, because
That's
9/11...
what happened to us.
That's really what happened to us, was 9/11, because the economy just was hit hard, and it just kept going down, and it's still kind of sliding,
The building was being built.
Yeah.
I was trying to be a realtor because I was trying to make some kind of money.
Yeah.
But that's how we found the land, was because I had a realtor license. But that was the same year I quit being a realtor.
She was a realtor for about 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year. And then 9/11 hit. Then the building was finished the following year.
Mm-hmm.
And we started the restaurant in 2002, October 2002. And it just never... the economy just was in the dumps.
But here's the thing. Phyllis was a very introverted person before she became a realtor. She was so, I don't know if I can talk to anybody, even answering the phone. But look at her now. Being a realtor was part of Yahusha's training. Mm-hmm. It really opened this woman up. She was very timid and almost anything she was afraid of, It's amazing.
It's funny how Yahusha will use a career or a trade to teach you about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
She's fearless. Yeah.
Well, I have to answer the phone and get a lot of attacks.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of love, so it balances out,
So you found yourself in a building. What made you build it? Well, you're obviously building it for a restaurant. That's why it looks a bit like a fort and like a facility. Well, you call it a facility, don't you?
The tin sides.
Yeah, we designed various styles, and one of the more interesting ones were this 10-sided building, and so I drew up the plans for it because there's 10 commandments, and we even put a copy of one of the editions of Fossilized Customs down into one of the foundations of the building. So at some point, if it survives, enough time, it'll still be there. And I think it was the one where I had page numbers, which is good.
Oh yeah, the first edition.
The first edition, there were no page numbers.
He was so new at this, he didn't know to put. He thought the publisher would put the page numbers on there.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
No, you have to put everything.
You had to put it on yourself.
So, people from Australia were calling us and saying, "Hey, I think I've got a defective copy. My copy doesn't have any page numbers." And I was amazed that they were even there. What were they doing in Australia?
We were mailing those fossilized, those first two or three editions out by hand all over the world, and we didn't even have it on the internet. Didn't even exist.
Not in the form it does now.
There was, you could get on bulletin boards, but you didn't have the internet as it is today.
Oh, no. The bulletin boards, that was all you saw, really. Yeah.
Do you have a copy of what was it? Mud? What was it called?
Bold Mud.
Bold Mud.
You know what? David was just telling me the other day that he still has a copy of Bold Mud, and he was thinking that Lou needs to reissue it. See, Bold Mud and all those fossicles that he did first, he wrote those by hand. He didn't even have a
word processor.
A word processor. He wrote them by hand.
Yeah, they were
Everything was drawn. The pictures were drawn. All the word, it was printed, picture perfect. Then he bought a word processor, and that's when you did Fossilized Custom, wasn't it?
Yes, or one of the fascicles, maybe.
One of the fascicles was on the word processor.
Yeah.
Okay, then he got a word processor.
Yeah.
But yeah, the very first one, and David has a copy of that. He thinks you should copy it.
As it is?
Make souvenir copies
Wow.
or something. I don't know what he wants to do.
How many years has it been? We could have a 25-year edition or something like that. commemorative version.
What year was it, honey? Can you remember?
No, I don't remember. I can't. But it was probably 1987 or so.
Or maybe a little bit
Maybe
later,
later
because it
than
seems
that.
like both boys had been born.
Yeah.
Adam was born in 87. It seems
Well,
like it was after that a little bit.
It might have been. Might have been a couple of years after that. But we'll have to look in the edition, see if I wrote the date in there, you know. But
Well, you didn't put the date in the first edition of Fossilized
Yeah.
Customs.
I know you showed me the fascicles. You showed me the fascicles on the Torah Talk show. That they were.
if we have the copy of the Bold Mud, we'll have to put that up on one, if we can find one. You know.
I'll ask David to give
Yeah.
us his copy if he'll let go of it.
Yeah.
I love that title, Bold Mud. That's really coming from a scientist's point of view, isn't it?
Yeah.
You
it
know,
is.
one thing he didn't mention when he was talking about the title, he also was talking about how funny it was that people would get angry about anything because we're just mud, and how bold is that for mud to get mad or angry about something?
When Yahuah looks at us and he sees us really enraged about something, he's looking at him and going, "Whoa, look at that mud! It's really angry." And it's so embarrassing when you realize, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm only mud."
Yeah.
You know, why would I get mad? It's mad mud, you know.
That's nuts.
It's nuts.
How did you first hear about Chris Costa or any kind of scripture translation that might have been not NIV or not Christian or King James? Or
That's a good question.
where did you first come across some kind of real scripture translation?
Well, when I was doing my research at U of L and so forth, some years into that, I was encountering some of the other people that I was fellowshipping with, just on one-on-one basis, you know. And we were like I remember Michael Caudell, who was a young man at that time, just a little younger than I was, really, and he was coming along with some of the studies that I was showing him, and then he showed me things, and we did a little of this and that, and there were several other friends that we had made that were sort of in a little circle of a fellowship of people that were studying Scripture. And out of one of them, it seems like, I don't know if it was one of them or somehow I got a hold of a copy of a little hardcover book called Final Reformation.
Oh, yeah.
And that Final Reformation was amazing because it was the same thread that we were following of truth. And Chris Koster was in South Africa, so I wrote to him, and we corresponded by mostly mail, you know, and back and forth. And I was amazed that he would even write to me because, you know, I understood that this man had been doing this at the same time that I was doing mine, and I didn't think that there was no competition between us. We were both excited to discover there was someone else on another part of the planet doing the same thing at the same time, discovering the same things about what was wrong.
Chris Costa wrote the Final Reformation, did he?
Yes, he did. That was what became Come Out of Her, My People, but that was after his death. You know.
Oh, they changed the name after
They
he
changed
died?
the name of it after his death, yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it was the Final Reformation, and it was a wonderful research tool that he had done, and it was just basically confirming everything that I had discovered, and it made me feel secure because I thought, well, maybe I'm not crazy. You know, there's somebody else. And that really gave me a lot of encouragement. And so, and he was so kind, you know, but you know, he was, I could get the tone in his letters that he wasn't going to take any kind of false teachings. The Scriptures is the basis of everything. But yet he was very kind.
Well, how did that lead to the Scriptures? So was he
Well,
doing
the Scriptures was something that I don't know what the first edition was. Was it 1993?
I don't know.
I
No,
can't
I think it was 1997 because 1998 they came out with the second edition that had made all the corrections.
But I remember a copy that seemed to have a copyright in it 1993. But that was, I think, the year he died, 1993 or 1994. But I remember vaguely that it was either 1993 or 1994 that Chris died, and it was traumatic for me. I couldn't believe it because I felt such a camaraderie. I felt like I was, I could just feel the loss, because he was so important to me. And of course, Yahusha is most important. But the Yahusha was in him, and it led him to do the translation and the writing of those truths in the book Final Reformation. And then subsequently after that, Wilhelm Wolfhard contacted me after his death and asked me if I would be willing to take up some of the tasks for ISR, Institute for Scripture Research, for the United States, to be a director of things here. And we instituted the corporation, so we came into existence. So Institute for Scripture Research became an entity here in the United States. And
but that was much later.
Yeah, it was a few years later. Yeah.
Did you help Chris Costa at all in any of his translation work, or while he was translating the scriptures, or had he already finished when you came along?
Yeah, he'd already finished all that, and I was working with the because Wilhelm and the other directors were trying to work out the next printing, and they wanted to get some of the typos corrected and try to find out where the problems might be, and so the next edition would be better. And of course we were emailing the information to one another by that time pretty regularly that would make the next one improved. So they were always interested in improvements, and I was making recommendations to change the font to the original script, and I kept excitedly explaining to them that no one has ever done this since the Septuagint, because the original Septuagint that was translated in the 2nd century BC BCE was retaining the script of the Paleo-Hebrew in its original form. And you can see that on the great Yeshayahu scroll, at the scroll of the book, the Hekel Sefer in Jerusalem. But
so they've sort of changed it all now, have they? The way, are they still running it sort of how Chris ran it?
In a general way, yeah. And now, subsequently, though, Johann and his wife Marie are running things over in South Africa, and Wilhelm has moved to New Zealand now. So, but I'm basically going to be, stepping down very shortly as my last act of ISR, the corporation here. We're going to dissolve the corporation here in the United States, which is sad. We wanted to see everything go well with that, and but we're still going to be close to Wilhelm and the others, just as much as ever, maybe more so. And but Chris has been. I was corresponding with Chris for years, and his insights. I would ask him for insights because I didn't know how old he was. I just detected that he was older in the faith than I was, and I remember excitedly writing to him to explain what the festivals meant, because I detected that there was something that they were pointing at that was not the literal things, because the festivals of Israel that are given in Deuteronomy 16 and Leviticus 23 are about redemption, and I was wondering if he could give me all of the insight that he could on those issues. And he gave me something that I published in the Fossilized Customs. In fact, I quoted Chris's own letter. And subsequently, as the years passed, I noticed that he never mentioned what first fruits meant And first fruits, of course, is the resurrection and what that means. And apparently Chris didn't ever know what that meant. You know, that first fruits was in the midst of the Feast of Matzah. And, you know, that later it was revealed by Yahusha what it meant. But I wish Chris could have known. You know. That is so exciting.
Ever since you knew Chris, did they have? Was there anybody trying to, you know, come at him and say, "You're nuts. This version is not correct. It shouldn't be done like this." Did he copyright or anything like that? What was the go back then?
Well, I don't believe Chris intended to copyright the book the scriptures. I don't know that though, because he never discussed that. But I understand that around 1993 there was a copyright taken out, and I don't know if he did it or if the board of directors did it, so the translation would be protected. You know, of course, if they alter it, they holding the copyright, they can do that. You know, which they have done. You know, they translated things a little differently. Some people are not happy with what the changes are.
So you should be able to do that then, because even though it's Yahuwah's word, I mean, if nobody's discovered what it says or translated it that way, that would make it an original text, wouldn't it?
Well, I guess in one frame of reference it would, but I'm not thinking that we need to copyright. I don't like copywriting Yahuwah's word, but you know, in fact, I'm in the process now of thinking about getting a copyright for Fossilized Customs.
Understandably.
I don't know. I'm not going to sue anybody if they, you know, steal it. So what's the point, you know?
Yeah.
I'm going to go, yippee! You know, you're paying for the printing now, and you know, and the shipping. But the word's getting out there, because it's not about profit. It isn't about that. It's about getting the truth into as many people as you can.
How do you guys feel that thousands and thousands of people have been affected by what you guys have put together? And we know it's Yahusha, but what, just from those very seed thoughts 30 odd years ago, and now it's gone worldwide.
It's humbling.
Yeah, it's not us, it's all Yahusha, but at the same time, I'm concerned about those that might have been injured by the truth, because see, the truth can divide families. And I've heard of people who, you know, when you get a little bit of knowledge and you use it as a weapon, it can be very destructive. But you need to understand that when you understand something better than someone else, it doesn't empower you above them. It actually makes you more of a responsible person to make sure that the people are not injured by it if you're sharing it with them. And to be patient, you know, because you have to be patient with other people and not to, husbands and wives get divided over it. You know, when we first came into various things in the scriptures, that I would study something and I'd say, well, Phyllis, we're not supposed to be traveling on the Sabbath, or we're not supposed to eat that blood. We're not supposed to do this and that. I'd show her, and she would get really excited and say, what? But then I'd show her, and she'd say, well, that's what it says. Yeah. We're going to have to change. So you see, repentance is ongoing. It's something you never stop doing. And so your heart is always bent towards repentance. It's what you want, you know. You want to be wrong and let Yahuah be right. And that's all you really have to do. And, you know, put the other person above yourself, you know, that you're trying to help coach, you know. And I was feeling some heat there, you know, when I'd share things. But when I saw it, I'd said, well, let's just calm down. Let's just not get excited. Let's be calm. And I was going to be patient, you know, because Yahusha was leading me that way, you know. But some people would say, no, I'm the man. I'm the husband. You must obey me. You have to be gentle when you have things that you want to impose on other people. You don't want to really impose them. You want it to well up from within them. And that's what she was doing. When the truth comes in, then you're controlled from the truth. The truth controls you.
Remember that day when you discovered we weren't supposed to work on Sabbath? You were supposed to go into work that day?
Yeah.
And you just said, I'm not going.
I'm not going to go. You know, there was a time when, with that store that I work at, I was the vice president, Bob was the president, and we were the only ones involved. Phyllis, I think, was a vice president too, just for the books, because they require 3. But what happened was Bob decided that he wanted to get off and go and start another business, much like I did, but only we had a contractual agreement where he maintained stock ownership, but I took over full control. But it was only for a few months. And what I did was we reorganized the ownership. So I was president, she was vice president, and she was secretary and treasurer, so that on the books it looked like we were the only owners. And I closed the store on the Sabbath. And I was in process of changing some things inside. And because the store's sales went down, and I was tied to Bob to pay a percentage, he saw the dropping in sales, and I didn't care, because I have to trust in Yahuah. So he said, well, this isn't working after several months. He said, let's go back to the way we were doing things before, and I'll open the store on the Sabbath. And I wasn't happy about that idea, but Bob was languishing and he was hurting financially. So I said, well, you own the stock, so we can reorganize it back to the way it was. And that's what we did. And now, you can find out that we're just half, vice president. I'm vice president now, as it was before. So that was an interesting thing. But then that was after we started to get away too. Because see, I tried to get away by starting Strawberry Islands.
Yeah.
I thought if we could just get away and get something else going, then we could just forget that. Pay that off if we could and get things going. But the economy just started flatlining, and it was impossible to really get anything done. But what Yahusha did was, he's given us a facility to run this thing from. And, we're $450,000 in debt now on that, which sounds like a lot, but it's only a third of what we started out with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're really making progress. And so that was, of course, what was that? 12 years work, to try to get it down to that point, So my prayer is to get that debt paid off,
So if Yahusha can use you anywhere, would you say that the thing that is tying you to the shop is mainly a financial thing? You don't really want to just, as people have said, just go bankrupt, who cares? So you don't want to do that if you don't have to, do you?
No, nobody wants to go bankrupt.
I have no ties to anything in the world materially. I mean, it just that what I'd like to do is do things properly. But if Yahuah supernaturally paid that loan off and enabled us to pay off the other debts that are being paid for by that income, he has to do both. Then yeah, I pray every day that I be released from that place. But there's good being done because there's people that are picking it up. But he's shown me a new way. If that ever gets paid off, because see, if you restructure, if I just walked away, then the bank would call the loan, and then the place would be for sale. Bob would be out at work, and that's another family. And I would have no income to support Torah Institute, so that would be a bad decision to make. So if you restructure your internal organization, the bank controls you personally too, because I have a personal signature on that. So even if I ran away, I'm still owing the money. It doesn't change anything. If I went personally bankrupt, sure, but why do that when you can, we'd be living on the street. But I mean, I'm reaching people, but he did show me a way to get rid of it. If ever something supernatural happened and the loans were all paid off, then I can leave and I can put a kiosk inside that store and let Bob run the store. But there'll be a kiosk with a video screen and I imagine an internet line going into the store, and there'll be YouTube videos running perpetually on this screen, and books all along the kiosk to buy.
You haven't mentioned there's two things keeping him to the store. One is the financial situation, but the other is the job that he is doing in that store, and that's why he's talking about he didn't mention the job yet. That's why he has to have the kiosk, is because he's doing a job in the mission field, a job that nobody else wants to do. I mean, I haven't seen anybody say, Brother Lou, I'll come and witness to these people every day for you so you don't have to, but nobody stepped up to want to do that.
Yeah.
So you see, it's two things, not only the financial situation, but the fact that Yahuah is using him there in the store. But if he can set up this kiosk, then that his work would be continuing
Yeah.
in his absence.
Even if I'm not there, and it would probably be doing a better job because, a real person's always better. But because somebody that's spirit-filled, that's talking to an unbeliever, that can jump on them, and Yahusha can work through that person directly. But he can also work through the kiosk. Now, the kiosk is interesting because, see, there's a video store that's just gone out of business here in our community, and I've purchased this kiosk, which is this large object that's several feet wide, square, and about 8 feet high, 7.5 feet high, and it's beautiful, and it can hold books, and it can hold a TV, a flat screen, and it could be connected to the internet, and it would just be something somebody could walk up to. It would only take up a very small amount of square foot, and a person that's drawn to it will just walk up and go, what? And then, let me just take this pamphlet with me. We'll have free materials there, but I don't have to be there. See? That would be something I'd put in writing, and this thing has to be connected to the internet, it has to be on, it has to be running, and it has to be well stocked. And I'd check on it too.
Well, the reason this is excited is the very fact that this is being put in place could mean Yahuah's about to move.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know who would carry on Lou's work there if he wasn't there anymore, and now that problem's already been solved. So we're thinking something supernatural could be about to happen.
Yeah, I'm always waiting for that.
I mean, it could be years down the line.
Well, even if I'm dead, this thing would still be working and talking.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll make sure of that.
And maybe we can replicate that in your shop. Yeah. Even when you don't have time to talk to people, this thing will talk to them, and it'll give them brochures, and they can buy a book or a video. Pick up a video, a DVD.
Do you guys get around to every person in your seminar and find out where they've come from?
Well, some of them come up to us and they tell us who they are, where they're from, and there's a lot of people that come again and again and again, and some that don't show up and then they pop up. There's people that skip over a month or two and then they come. There's a lot of that. We know them.
But,
by name.
But there's more people come from out of state than right within. I mean, out of the city limits than right.
They drive great distances.
Yeah, there are people like there's a gentleman that drives 3 hours to get to the seminar, and he's so excited about it that he gives me money to make sure that I bring enough food to feed everybody, because he wants to hang out and socialize with people once he gets there, because it's not it's such a long drive. He wants to eat and socialize, and so he covers the expense of the food that we
Well, and a lot of people are coming from places that are, there's no other people that believe anything like what they believe. Their families don't understand, and their friends don't get it, because they're, cookie cutter Christianity, from where most of these people are.
It reminds me, there was a couple, a gentleman that came to the store that came into the islands, you know, and
Yeah.
David was there to talk to him, and when they came
It was
in,
two. Yeah.
the two men, I
Yeah.
forgot their names, but they probably wouldn't want their names mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they came, met Lou at the store, bought a book, Fossilized Customs, and then came directly over to Torah Institute and was talking to David for about 45 minutes, but they were supposed to be at the meeting. I didn't see them at the meeting. Now that you mentioned, I was going, where were they? They weren't at the meeting, but
Well,
I guess it was too quick for them to make plans to come. But they, you know, they're really excited. Now they know the truth. They didn't know the truth before.
yeah, in my store where I work with Bob, a lot of materials are there. I don't have everything there, but a lot of people come there from out of state, out a long distance, sometimes from California or New York or Florida. A lot of Floridians are always finding their way in there. And they tell us, they go, wow, I heard about this place. And then they come in, and then suddenly they're walking back there and they're picking up something, and they're going, I've got to get this. I'm pretty surprised to see a video and a book in somebody's hand, and it just makes my heart leap with joy because they picked it up on their own, you know. But a lot of times somebody will walk up and they'll start chatting about something that maybe they're somewhere along the way and they're trying to get more, and they'll ask me a couple of questions, and we'll chat for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and we can help them out with maybe a video or something that's on that topic, you know. And that's really, you know, I think why I'm there, you know. But that kiosk is possibly going to be the answer for me, you know,
That'd be
later.
nice.
Do you find that the average person, like even Natsarim, really couldn't care less about the idols? Because I mean, I watched it and thought it was hilarious. You know, I thought this is what a fantastic spot to work.
Well,
You know, fun little trinkets in there.
well, like Paul
And,
said, most people don't have the knowledge that idols are nothing, you know.
So you find that if somebody has a big problem with the idols, it's generally because of an ulterior motive.
Yeah. Well, you know, the weak brother and sister, weak meaning untrained and unknown, they don't know enough. Those are the weak ones. Now, it isn't that their faith isn't great, it's just that they don't have enough knowledge, and as they learn, they realize things. But when they're really young and weak in the faith, weak in the training, they can be affected by certain things that they see in the world because they're still in training, and those that are further along can use those things to say, well, you know, this is nothing at all, and this is one of the problems. But the things that are in the store were actually put there, you know, by and large by Bob, who likes the style. It's a style thing with him. He likes it because it's archaic looking and mysterious. And Egypt was something very mysterious to, well, everybody, you know, because there were tombs and strange beliefs, you know. And Egyptology was something that he's been really interested in. In fact, our first store together was called Pyramid Records. Pyramid Records. And we had a big pyramid style motif. And of course, some people might think that that's a pagan item. It is on the top of an obelisk, you know. You see a pyramid at the top. But who knows, the first obelisk may not have had that shape on it. It might have just been a, you know, because it didn't mention that in the book of Daniel. The object that's mentioned in Daniel is so many feet wide, you know, and so many feet tall. And it has the dimensions of an obelisk. It doesn't say it had a pyramid on top, though. But the pyramids, the original pyramids, may have been pre-flood. The original ones, the really big ones that are in there. But and they may or may not have had anything to do with idolatry, you know. But, you know, there's people that say that there is a problem. But anyway, the other items, though, they are definitely reflecting the identities of Egyptian deities. You know, it's not a good idea to have those things around, but they're there. And I call the little case they're in Spook Central. Bob knows what I'm talking about. Spook Central.
Yeah.
He says, yeah,
Mhm.
you know.
Do you guys have any believers around you, or do you find that they people hear the word and then they spread out back where they came from? Do you have any people sort of in Louisville, or
Our family,
that you?
you know,
No,
our children,
oh,
Michael, his children, there's Janet,
David and Shelby.
David and Shelby, and those are people who were in Christianity or nothing that came in, and then there's travelers that we know that, you know, we don't want to mention all their names, but that have come into the true faith as a result of coming into that shop, you know, that music store. So
Mostly Yahuah is scattering us
Yeah.
far and wide.
we're salt, spread thin.
Mm.
We give flavor to the culture, you know.
How have you felt over the last 30 years about the separation process? How Yahuah separates us unto Himself from everything.
Well, you know, he said that he came to divide a mother and, you know, from her children, and a father and so forth, brother against brother and so forth, and he described it as a sword, you know, a divisive thing, that we'd be pitted against one another, and even to the point where parents would put their children to death, and vice versa, over, you know, the religiosity. You know, the religiosity is a piousness, that it's a false piety is what it is. But, you know, what do you think about it?
I'm not sure I understand the question, really.
Whenever things go down in our life and we feel separated from people,
Right.
we realise that Yahusha has done that because He's so jealous and wants our attention so much that He separated us from that thing that wasn't healthy, and separated us from that person, separated us from that person. And it seems like a negative thing at the time, but we realise He's drawn us closer to Him for His purpose. That's what I mean by the separation process, to be set apart. How do you feel about being set apart?
I feel isolated.
Well, yeah,
I
because we
do.
don't love the same things that they love.
Yeah.
But we're not so much separated from the people, but we're separated from the activities. And that's the thing.
That's that's why I didn't understand the question, because it's the activities, like when his family has their Christmas gathering,
Valentine's or Halloween.
you know,
Yeah.
you know, they would have all these. That was the only time they got together. Were on a pagan day, and we just wouldn't be there, and they would mock us and make
Yeah.
fun. At first, we'd try to be there just to, you know, to explain to them why we shouldn't be doing this, but then they'd mock and make fun of us to our face. So we just decided to quit going, so that it would be, you know, we wouldn't be made fun of, you know, and of course
We show love to them, but it's hard to keep getting jabbed at with,
yeah.
you know, these criticisms and things. You know, we don't try to criticize. That's where a lot of Natsarim get off on the wrong path, by getting critical and judgmental of one another instead of encouraging, because we're supposed to encourage. Romans 12 is something that shows us that we're to not be like that, but we're to encourage one another and lift each other up, put the other person higher and put in more importance, you know, and always be deferent and help them instead of tearing them down all the time, you know.
How do your children feel as young men, seeing the way you guys would operate in certain situations? Do they sort of follow along with you, or do you have to sort of give them a bit of an understanding on how we should be doing this? You know, do they sort of want to go gung ho and start?
Well, now our two children, Adam is 24 and Michael's 30. They're fine now. They know the truth, and they have to navigate the storms and weirdness as we do. But the children, the young ones, Elijah, Elena, and Ethan, they're we still guide them and point to it and say, now that's a pagan thing. You know, that's something we don't have anything to do with. Whether it be, you know, Satan's Sabbath or Satan's birthday or, you know, the wrong name, you know.
We see them being torn because they're
in a Christian
they're in
school.
a Christian school, which is much better than being in a public school, you know, because of what we see going on in the public schools. So they're kind of, that's why they need constant guidance, is because they're young and they're being influenced by these Christianized pagan activities.
Well, the light doesn't have to run away from the darkness. It's the darkness that has to be dispelled by the light. And if you're the light, then you might stun the deer. The deer sees the light, and the deer goes, what? But we're not the deer. We don't have to be afraid. It's just that we shine the light. And, you know, an example of that would be Elijah, the oldest one. He's about 11. We picked him up a couple of nights ago, or a couple of afternoons ago. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. We picked him up from school, the three of them, and Elijah was wearing this shirt. And on the shirt, it said Yahudah in Hebrew letters, and the Daleth had a doorway on it, and it was quoting Yahusha's words, "I am the doorway for the sheep," and Yahuah was right there in front of their eyes, and the headmaster of the school is a pastor. You know, he's John Savage. I pray for him every day, and he probably will have an opportunity to see that shirt and go, what? There's Hebrew. And then there's Yahusha's, his own words, you know, which is a witnessing tool, you know. And so they're light, you know, even in the midst of their school, you know.
Is that why you wear the Paleo letters on your shirt and on your car? Do you find many people pull you up and who have done any kind of study and say, I know what those symbols are. You're got the Creator's name there.
A lady was at the grocery. We were together, and it was a couple or three Yom Shishis ago, you know, preparation day, and we were stepping out of the car, and it was actually more like 2 months ago, wasn't it?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, it was closer to 2 months ago. Anyway, we were going into the grocery, and this nice lady was standing there saying something to us about it. She said, that license plate that you have, YHWH, that's the name of the Creator, isn't it? And we said, yes. And we had a little chat for a moment. I gave her a little card that, you know, invited her to our seminars. And in fact, it was yesterday we were in line at a shop, and some people behind us were talking to us, and they were talking loud. It was an older couple than we are, actually. And they were saying, if you can imagine that. And then the lady said, I'm always interested in how those people lived so many years back in the Old Testament. You know, after the flood, they started to get less and less. And I said, well, we study Torah, and we'd like to get together with you on that. And I handed a card to her husband. And they said, we go to Southeast, and which is right down the street from us. It's that same place. And yeah, that was great, you know. So the witnessing goes on all the time. You have to be ready. You have to have your card in your purse or your wallet, and or wear something that draws attention. And you could say, you know, if they say, what's those tassels that you have there? What's going on there? Or they don't know what it is. They call them strings or whatever. Say, well, you know, that I'm glad you asked. That's something to remind us of obeying the covenant, the commandments. You know, Deuteronomy 22, you know, Numbers 15. And it's a great thing to know. Oh, somebody else was saying something the other day. One of the people, I was in the store, and this young man I was talking to, I said, you know, they don't even, you know that they have to keep the commandments. It's you know, stealing is wrong, and working on the Sabbath is wrong, and all that. And he said, you know, my parents always drilled the 10 Commandments into my head all the time. And I said, well, yeah, they're forever. And we got to chatting about it. We talked for like 15 minutes. And he was actually coming in to look for a job. That's his real intention for being there. But he walked out with a card and I don't know what else, So he's, hopefully going to change. It takes time. You have to plant seeds and then they grow. Yahuah waters them.
So as world-renowned authors, what's that done to your lifestyle? Do you find that in spite of all the day-to-day routines, are you finding people just rocking up on your door every day wanting to talk and have a meal and that sort of thing? Because, I mean, you got books around the world. If anybody was travelling and they were going near Louisville and they believed this, they'd be coming to see Lou and Phyllis, wouldn't they?
Don't they?
People do call and they say they're coming by, but not as much as when we used to live at the islands. That was one of the reasons we had to move. Is we had one fella that traveled by bus all the way from California, and he just knocked on our door and said, "I just came to see you because I just wanted to learn more." And he had no place. We gave him a place to stay the night, and he didn't have money to get a bus ride back, so we put him to work and let him earn some money so he could get on a bus and go back. But
in order to get the money, we had to sell things that we had, and then
we
gave
did a
the
yard
money to
sale.
him. We had a yard sale, where you put things out on the street and then let him sell them. They were our stuff, but we just didn't need it, So we've got this stuff, and he's selling the stuff, and then he's got bus fare back.
But we used, and one time we had a fellow from prison write to us and said, "My buddy's getting out, and he's headed to see you as soon as he gets out." And we're like, "Boy, this isn't going to stop. Just people just showing up at our doorstep."
Well, we have a family. At that time we had the 3 grandchildren living with us as well.
Yes, we did. We had small children living with us.
Our lives were really, really full. But of course, I was working all the time too, and we were trying to get the business of the ministry itself going. And when people are coming in and wanting you to talk with them for 8 hours or whatever, the interruption can just stop everything. And if people call and say, "Well, where's my books?" "Oh, well, I didn't have time to put those in the," we have to travel to the post office, and we can't just sit there frozen with people. But if people do want to come and visit us, we never turn them down, But we
try to meet them over there at the islands because we try to keep our private lives separate, But of course, our private life has been blasted all over the internet now. But we don't have a private life anymore. But
well, that's okay.
That's okay.
Whatever.
Still
he's in charge,
buffering everything. But when we lived at the islands, we'd have people drop in for lunch. Remember?
Yeah.
They would just, "Here we are."
Yeah.
We'd feed them some lunch and send them on their way.
And we'd sit down at the table with them and chat with them. But we only would be able to give them a half an hour to an hour, of time. But when people drop in on you like that, but they're important. They're very important. It's just that a lot of times I'd be at the store though, working and trying to keep the whole place going, But Yahusha's going to do something, I think, to change all this. But he's given me the idea though of the kiosk. And that's what I keep holding on to.
He keeps holding on to that so that he
because I'd love to be able to do this more, giving the best hours of my day to be able to get more written and sent out into the world. But
see, because we've always felt like Lou's going to be tied to that store until he's reached a certain number of people, or maybe there's somebody yet that Yahuah is going to send to that store that has to be, there are people in ministry right now that have met Lou through the store.
Oh yeah.
And
they're in ministry, and they walked in that store and they talked to me face to face, and they got like Priscilla, and when in the book of Acts, if you read it, he took them to the side and said, "Well, let me just bring you up a little bit more finer details." Yeah, so you can get a little bit more accuracy here. Aquila and Priscilla, I believe it was.
So we kept thinking when he sends enough people in, or
Yeah.
whoever that one person is left,
When that last person comes in,
then Lou will be freed from the store. So it's it's Lou's mission. That store is his mission.
Yeah, it looks like it.
His job right now, but with the kiosk, maybe his job can be carried on.
Well, I think he gave me the idea, though.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think Mark did. Because that shelf you put up.
We find down here that the things Yahuah has given you to say are so fresh and so simple and yet powerful. Especially over the last couple of years, do you find that you have come closer and you have just how important is your connection with Yahusha to you? Do you feel that what's been going on to you has been really just to try and squash that connection? Aside from all the excuses everybody makes, do you feel that there's something coming at you to try and stop your connection? To stop you saying and discovering what you're discovering?
Well, to
interrupt us.
To interrupt us.
To shut you up.
To take up our time to the point where we are always dwelling on something other than the thing we were sent to do. Yeah. We're not going to defend ourselves. We're just going to keep doing the work. So whatever the demonic forces want to intend to do will be impotent, and we'll just keep plowing forward.
But we do have to spend a lot of time and the only reason we spend time with people that are being affected is because we care about the person, not because we feel like we have to defend ourselves.
Yeah, they're injured.
But we care. I had a woman call me the other day and ask me questions, and I said, you've been hurt by this, and I'm really sorry. I apologized to her because she's been affected, and I said, I'm being interrupted and you're being hurt, and it's a real shame. But yeah, I think you're right. It does seem to be something to try to distract us and get our eyes. But like Lou's always saying, we can't look at the storm. We have to look at Yahusha.
Yeah, keep your eyes fixed on Yahusha, because if you turn and look at the storm, then you're going to sink into the waters, and you won't be able to walk on the water.
So do you feel that he's brought you a lot closer to himself?
Oh yeah.
In the last year or so?
Yeah. Because we rely on him more consciously than ever, and we pray for the people that are being harmed, and the prayer is the armor. When we put on our armor, we are in prayer, and the prayer with him is the connection. And if you're constantly praying and you're always in connection with him, and you know that he's in charge, that you're the servant and he tells you what to do, then you're always going to be fine. He'll equip you, he'll enable you. It doesn't matter what, we didn't prepare for what we were going to say today. He just, talks to us, and he speaks, and if we just get out of his way, as long as he's in charge of your whole mind and your heart, you have no worries.
Lou's always been solid as a rock. He's always been, the one that always keeps his sight on our goal and what we've got to be working. I'm the weak one. I'm the one that gets hurt. I feel like I get battered and bashed, but it seems like I get caught. People will call me up and say, I've had a word from Yahusha to share with you, and I've been called to tell you. And it seems like it happens to me because I probably need the nourishing more than Lou does. But yeah, I'm the one that gets calls, and people will tell me, this is the word from Yahusha. Like the fellow called the other day. He called, and he sounded to me that he was speaking right for Yahusha. He was telling us that he was just, it was just encouraging. He was just letting us know that we're just doing what we're supposed to be doing when we're supposed to be doing it.
So how do you find your relationship now?
Oh, our marriage?
Oh,
our
yeah.
Oh, yeah. We have our ups and downs like any other.
She's the second best gift Yahuah ever gave me.
Yeah.
You know what the first one is? His life, his blood, his life, when he gave up his life for all of us. That's his gift to all humanity. But yeah, she's the second best gift that Yahuah has given me.
And sister, you're in total remission now, are you?
Oh yes, from my cancer.
Well, the
Yes.
tumor is still there, but it's benign right now. It's
Yeah.
not infected.
Yeah, the infection is all gone. The cancer
Yeah.
is all dead. It's just the I still have a tumor, but I don't know if it's going to be with me or if he's going to miraculously heal that. But you know, there's no pain, there's no infection. Everything's just sitting there like a little lump, but it's fine.
And that was no medication and no surgery.
Yes, sir. No medication, no
Well,
surgery.
Yahuah's
just-
guidance, there was a sister that was giving her counseling,
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
What's her name?
Lucinda Robinson. She's we sell a book that she wrote, and I was following the advice in the book, and then I emailed her and said, I think I need a little bit more direct help with this, and she so she gave me some patient schedules, a lot of product to take, and then switch from this to this, and with diet and with these herbs that she recommended, we've taken care of. Yahuah has used that to heal me, and I think I'm sure that he could have just healed me miraculously, without having to go through that. But I also needed. There were some other things I needed. I needed to do a cleansing in my body, because I had prayed to him, because I was weighed a little bit more than I wanted to. I was a little bit overweight, and I knew that my weight was climbing. So I prayed to him, and I asked him, I said, can you motivate me to lose weight? And then it was not, and then this knot that already existed at that point, and that's when that knot started hurting and aching, and I went, wow, this has got my attention. And I tell you what, there's nothing that's going to motivate you to lose weight than getting yourself, knowing that you've got a battle to fight with cancer. So he used that battle to motivate me to lose weight, to clean up my diet. I've changed permanently the diet that I'm going to be on, and I'll never go back to eating like I was, because I liked the taste of the food, but it made me feel yucky. And so now I'm healthier than I've ever been.
And eating a lot more living food and getting her body chiseled.
But you got to watch out what you ask for.
Yeah.
you might ask him for something. He might give you a cancer to do it.
Well, he gives you the desires of your heart, and if he wants you to learn something, then he will take you and say, well, I want to learn how to be patient. And that is a really rough road. And or humble, or whatever it is. But he gives you that desire first, and then he makes you go through these things. And I think that's what we have going on. I prayed for humility and for him to cleanse my heart, and then what do I see? It's because a pure heart is very, very important. It's critical.
Do you ever wonder why, or ask Yahuah why he didn't give you the understanding about the food that you have now? Because your last bout of cancer was a lot more traumatic for you, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. But that was the beginning of the search. That was the beginning of the road, because I had no understanding about physical health or clean eating or anything like that. And so when I lost I had a total mastectomy, and back then they're really brutal. Back then they thought that they had to remove lymph nodes. Now that they've discovered that it's better to leave the lymph nodes in, because that actually helps fight the cancer. But then that's when Lou and I started searching, and that led somewhat to the desire to have a health food shop and a vegetarian restaurant, is because we started learning about healthy eating, and but it takes a lot of discipline, Yeah. And so we started taking fluorescence, to try to keep from having cancer again. They wanted me to take chemotherapy, and I refused the chemotherapy because I saw that the other people that were in this group with us did everything the doctor said to do, and yet they still had cancer the second time. So I said, well, I can just not do what the doctor says and take my chances. So, but yeah, it's, for 14 years, Lou and I have been studying nutrition and healthy eating, but, it takes discipline.
So you found you've both become a lot more disciplined in your walk through the experiences you put through?
Absolutely, yeah. We're committed. I mean, we always were, but you just, you grow. And if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, he's put us through quite a few experiences, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, he's protected us, through so many horrible storms and
you need to scoot up
things that... Oh.
Well, I just want to say how much we love you guys. We only the other day were talking about how we were before we came across Fossilized Customs, and when you take all the human elements out of it, and you think, why did it come then, in that place, and at the end of it, you realise you were visited by Yahuah. And he gave you something, and it literally felt like someone just dragging you out of the state we were in, and he used you guys to do that.
Well,
and we just feel so privileged to be able to work with you and flow along and look forward to more fresh stuff.
Oh yeah. Well,
and it's been lovely today, just hearing about how you came together and about the love story. It's all about love, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It sure is.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's never going to be smooth sailing, Yeah.
We can expect, like you were saying and sharing a few weeks ago about the parachute that we have on. It's the purpose of the parachute. The plane is going to crash, and we need to be ready. And we're happy. We're happy through whatever it is, and joyful. And knowing that the outcome is going to be seeing Him and being pleasing to Him, because it's not all about us. It's about the work that He's doing through His body. And a lot of people have to get on board with that and stop fighting it and not resist it. Just say, we've just got to get this thing going and stop fighting among ourselves.
Oh, that's so. And Paul reminded us that whatever is happening with you, and and Lou and I have told ourselves, whatever is happening is so bad that we have to think about the great joy that is to be ours. I mean, joy never heard of, eye has not seen and ear has not heard what Yahuah is going to do with us in eternity.
What He's prepared for those who love Him.
That was the thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't finish it.
And we have to show Him that we love Him too. We can't just feel it. We've got to act it out, practice it, showing that we're committed, to Him. And it isn't just about us. It's to infect other people with that same spirit, His spirit, so that He can get into them and they can just submit to Him and stop running that selfish life they used to have. Because we were selfish, just like everybody. And, now we can say, well, it's really about the people that we serve. The people that don't know much, that we're serving them, and getting that truth into them, helping.
Well, that's wonderful, brother and sister. It's been a pleasure spending time with you today.
Well, it's been wonderful seeing you and talking with you.
Thank you, brothers and sisters, for tuning into this special Torah Institute story today. Shalom.
Take my name on your lip, got my word in your grip, hear my voice in your day, put all hate and strife away, fill your lamp with my oil. Fill my heart while you toil. I am here with you now. Every knee soon will bow. So hear the call, that great and wondrous call. 'Cause I came and died and rose again. You're grafted in once more. I'm the door to come out of the hall. Springs of living water bubbling up within you. Hear the call, deep and endless love, a gentle sweetness coming out of y'all. It is time to come together, 'cause this love fest is the call. You owe none but to love. My child, you I'm proud of. Spread my joy and my will, pressing through evil's chill. Hear my cry, hear the call. Love's the goal, love is all. People rise and people fall, but how many hear the call? So hear the call, that great and wondrous call. 'Cause I came and died and rose again. You're grafted in once more. I'm the door to come out of the hall. Springs of living water bubbling up within you. Hear the call, deep and endless love, a gentle sweetness coming out of y'all. It is time to come together, 'cause this love fest is the call. Don't you know that I want your attention? I am jealous, possessive of my sheep. I have so much love and affection for you. Will you love me? Will you worship me? It's just obedience. So hear the call, that great and wondrous call. 'Cause I came and died and rose again. You're grafted in once more. I'm the door to come out of the hall. Springs of living water bubbling up within you. Hear the call, deep and endless love, a gentle sweetness coming out of y'all. It is time to come together, 'cause this love fest is the call. Oh, hear the call, that great and wondrous call. 'Cause I came and died and rose again. You're grafted in once more. I'm the door to come out of the hole. Springs of living water bubbling up within you. Hear the call, deep and endless love, a gentle sweetness coming out of y'all. It is time to come together, 'cause this love fest is the call. It's time to come together, 'cause this love fest is the call. It is time to come together, 'cause this love